Well, for more on our top story, of course, the ongoing attacks on Gaza, we're joined by Ralph Schonman, author of The Hidden History of Zionism, joining us from California. Many thanks for being with us here on Press TV.
Good to be with you.
Let's just start off with the news that we've been reporting. Mixed messages coming out of the Israeli camp in terms of the length of this operation. Some unofficial reports that there might even be phase 4, some official reports that they're nearing the end. What's your take on that?
Well, in the first place, this is a long-planned operation, a continuous effort to destroy the social, economic, political infrastructure of the Palestinian people in Gaza. They have been subjected to a total blockade. By now, something like 59% of the population is without adequate food. And the feature of this ongoing onslaught has been to essentially destroy the social cohesion of the population. It has very little to do with Hamas, other than to use Hamas as a pretext for the genocidal assault upon the population at large. Whether or not they continue the ground offensive is, in a certain sense, secondary, because ground offensive, air offensive, total blockade, it is a genocidal assault upon the population. One particular point to make, which I think is essential, inadequately reported. The United States has supplied the Zionists with experimental weapons, and these are weapons that destroy the DNA of the victims of these bombardments. These are weapons that have been acknowledged in Haaretz in Israel and were the subject of a particular investigative report by Italian television. A new weapon prototype, an experimental weapon that causes severe physical injuries, the destruction of internal organs, and results in amputated limbs on the part of almost all the victims. One of the features of the reports from Al-Shifa Hospital, Al-Aqsa Hospital, is the ubiquity of amputations. Almost everyone brought in requires amputation if they survive at all. Doctors report on an enormous number of burnt bodies, injuries accompanied by shrapnel and particular tungsten and cobalt powders that are throughout the body. Dr. Abbas al-Wahid, the head of the emergency room at Al-Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balah, had reported the legs of the injured sliced from their bodies as if a saw was used to cut through the bone. These
it seems like you're talking about
being used throughout Gaza by the Israelis as supplied by the United States with a whole team of American experts visiting Israel on a weekly basis to oversee the deployment of these genocidal weapons.
Well, it seems that you're talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, dime weapons, and in fact here on Press TV we exclusively reported on that, and we have been talking about the weaponry used by the Israeli forces. Doctors also reporting to us here on Press TV that depleted uranium has been used, white phosphorus has been used, and also some unconfirmed reports that cluster bombs have been used. But you do pick up on a good point.
A toxic weapon and the dense inert metal explosive, as you say, has certainly been a feature. But it is not just depleted uranium, but non-depleted uranium, which has been characteristic of these weapons. James Brooks of the Vermont Social Justice for Palestine group has done an enormous research on this subject and documentation. We've been broadcasting it for several weeks now on our national radio program, Taking Aim. DU and NDU, as they are called, dual-purpose munitions. Yes, cluster bombs. The cluster bombs have, as you're aware, several features. The mother bombs of a cluster bomb contain thousands of razor-sharp slivers of steel that slice flesh like a machete. Another type of cluster bomb contains tiny little steel pellets that perforate organs like a sieve so that people are inoperable. There's only one purpose of this weaponry, and that's attacking the civilian population and terrorizing the entire population Gaza.
Well, of course, Israel says it is focused on Hamas fighters and not the civilian population. But I'd like to pick up on that important point you make, that the US very well is documented to supply billions of dollars of aid to Israel and provide military equipment. And as we're heading closer to President-elect Barack Obama's inauguration into office, do you expect any change in US-Israel policy, or does US-Israel policy go beyond who is the President of the United States?
Yes. First of all, before addressing the question of Barack Obama, I want to mention that since 2001 and continuing into the present, there are the use of poison gases and nerve gases that have been amply documented. A long report on Media Monitor, documentation about their use throughout Gaza and in particular in Khan Yunis. The gases, apparently, when they are first thrown at the youngsters, at children, they smell sweet. They have a ginger scent, and then the kids are unaware of the consequences. These gases lead to convulsions and certain death. It's part of the genocidal reign of terror that the Israeli state is visiting upon the population of Gaza, but not merely that, but the intention is to terrorize the entire Palestinian population. As to Barack Obama, the Barack Obama appointments make very clear what is the nature of his candidacy. Barack Obama, from the time that he first appeared on the political stage, has been an advocate of the most relentless increase in U.S. attacks on the region, and notably preemptive attacks on Iran and on Pakistan. As far as the appointments of Barack Obama, 3 4-star generals are put in his cabinet. The head of his team is a Mossad operative named Ram Emanuel, who is well known for having served in the Israeli armed forces. The head of his national security team, Admiral Blair, was involved in overseeing the great massacres in Indonesia, notably in East Timor, where 1/3 of the population was exterminated. These are war criminals, and they are the same exact figures who have overseen the politics and policies that the Zionist state is carrying out against the Palestinian population, the politics of the murder of Iraq in these 2 devastating wars, and the increase of the same in Afghanistan, and, let it be said, the targeting of Iran, which is a very central element of this current onslaught on Gaza, because the Israeli and U.S. imperial propaganda is that Hamastan is an instrument of Iran, as is Hezbollah. That Iran is in fact fighting a proxy war against the Zionist state on its northern border in Lebanon and on its southern borders in Gaza. This propaganda onslaught is by way of not merely demonizing the Palestinian population, but preparing the public for a terror assault upon the population of Iran as well.